started. European theater. So we are in the very next slide in our notes. So let's take a look at European theater. Here we go. All right, so just like in the Pacific theater, we're going to have some people we got to know, okay? The European theater is going to start off in North Africa. Make sure you circle North Africa right here. Basically, you're going to have one person. Oh, sorry. Oh, no. Kind of screwed that up. Okay, one person in particular we're going to have to know from the very beginning in North Africa, a guy named George Patton. Star his name. Have you ever heard of him? Oh my gosh, let me tell you something. He is a beast. He's assigned to help plan the invasion of the French North Africa, and he's basically the main person in what we're going to call Operation Torch of the summer of 1942. Basically, George Patton is going to be the person in charge of basically taking over North Africa area. He's going to be part of the Battle of Kerosene Pass, the first time the U.S. actually faced the Germans any time ever, okay, in World War II. And by May 1943, Germans surrendered North Africa, and it's in large part due to this guy, George Patton. Now with this, I kind of have a weird little picture down here, but I like to go ahead and already show you what you're looking at. Right here you have North Africa. Take a look right here. This is what George Patton is going to be basically in charge of taking over. What we're going to do for our strategy in Europe, and if you pay attention right now, the rest of this is going to make sense. We're going to come up from the bottom, through North Africa, through Italy, and we're going to come at Hitler from this way. The Soviets, because remember, they're our allies now. Thank goodness that Hitler kind of screwed over Stalin, that non-aggression pact. The Soviets are going to come in from the Eastern Front right here. And then D-Day and the rest of us are going to come in from the Western Front through France right here. And we like to make what I like to call a Hitler sandwich, because we come up, over, and he's totally screwed. Now, George Patton is one person, by the way. I want you to write EOC out beside his name, because the EOC could ask you about any of these people at all. And oh, let's talk about something the EOC would take and want to ask you, the Tuskegee Airmen. While we're talking about the under area, if you will, the North Africa, Italy area, you do need to know about one group of men called the Tuskegee Airmen. Want you to make sure you're pausing and getting these slides down so you can still listen to me as well, because not only will the quizzes probably be over what's on the slide, but maybe over what I'm saying. So pause this and get this one down. The Tuskegee Airmen, right here, is the first African-American military aviators in the United States Armed Forces in the history of our country. They served mostly in Italy and the European theater during World War II, but I am not kidding you. These guys are top-notch. They are going to still be subject to the Jim Crow laws, so technically this is really unfortunate. We talked about it with World War I too, but these guys are still divided, or what's the word if I'm separating them? Segregated. So with this, these Tuskegee Airmen are going to go down in history as basically some of the biggest badasses in American history, but they were segregated. But here's the deal. Their efforts, I want you to write this out beside this slide, their efforts are going to go towards what we are going to call, you ready to write something down? The Double V campaign. Now, we're going to talk about the Double V campaign when it comes to African Americans, victory over the Axis powers, and victory over racism. And we're going to talk about it later for the women, victory over the Axis powers and victory over sexism. But these guys right here, Tuskegee Airmen, African American pilots, pretty dang important. The one person I want to make sure that you do notate down here at the bottom, this guy's name's Vernon Baker. He is basically one of the most amazing African American fighters in the history of the United States, awarded the Medal of Honor in 1997 for his actions during World War II. One of your African Americans that are going to be awarded the Medal of Honor, but his was basically honored in 1997 by, here's President Clinton right here, honoring him. Kind of an important note to take. The EOC always likes to ask those questions. Oh, here's an EOC question. Can you figure out the answer? Might pop up on a quiz. You might want to look at it. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the Battle of Stalingrad. Now, here's the deal. I'll be honest with you. What's the root word of Stalingrad? Stalin, of course it is. Dictators name stuff after themselves all the time. So here's the deal. The Battle of Stalingrad is going to be in, obviously, the Soviet Union. Hitler is convinced the only way to defeat the Soviet Union is to destroy their economy. Stalingrad was the key to the attack because it was the industrial hub of the Soviet Union. So here's the deal. We saw this in Iwo Jima and Okinawa later in the Pacific, okay? We saw that specifically want to take out the Japanese, you take out their industry. Hitler's as smart as we are. In fact, he might be smarter. He literally says the same thing. He figures if he takes and he cuts off the industrial hub, it would cut off the Soviet war resources. But Stalin ordered his troops to hold the city no matter what. He said, "You will not turn away from that line." He told his men that. He actually said, "If you turn away, I'll shoot you. So you better win against Hitler." So with that, this is going to be the turning point. It puts the Germans on the defensive. I will tell you that this Battle of Stalingrad, although it's called Operation Barbarossa, the entire reason that Stalin and the Russians can win it, or the Soviets can win it, Hitler attacked in winter. Add that out beside this slide. Winter. Maybe he's not that smart after all. Have y'all ever been in a Soviet-Russian winter? It's pretty ridiculous. So that's your turning point in the European theater, whereas Midway was your turning point in the Pacific. Now the end to Mussolini. Let's cover this one real quick. Basically, stepping stone for Allied powers is Italy. We need it. Sicily, we got to take it. So we go into Italy. We basically wipe them out, coming up from what Churchill calls the soft underbelly of Hitler. I like how he says that. You stab somebody, stab them in their underbelly, is what he basically says. Italy turns its back on Germany. It quits the Axis power. Mussolini is placed under arrest by the Italian king, thank goodness. Okay, then he was later hung by Italian resistance fighters. I'll be honest with you. If you want to look up a video of the hanging of Mussolini, you can find it. It is on the internet. Now, let's talk about the big day, D-Day. Pause this, get it down. Okay, so I really want you to listen to D-Day, so I hope you paused it and got it down. D-Day's technical name, just like Stalingrad was Operation Barbarossa, D-Day's technical name is Operation Overlord. Make sure you circle that. It is the code name for the invasion of Normandy, France. Man, I get all kinds of pumped up in American when I talk about D-Day. Merca, okay? It is June 6th, 1944. This is a non-negotiable date, just like December 7th, 1941, October 29th, 1929, July 4th, 1776. It's right up there, man. America. The whole idea, okay? The whole picture you need to get is going to be that General Dwight Eisenhower will become your supreme Allied commander, and he is in charge of what we will call D-Day. Everybody always asks me, Miss Barnes, what's D-Day stand for? And I'm like, well, to be honest with you, the technical answer is I don't know. A lot of people think it was going to be Decision Day, because if we did not get D-Day done and we did not invade France and take back over France and come in from that western front, many people think that Hitler would have won very easily. But if D-Day, Decision Day, if it went through, if we got it done, a lot of people think this was the beginning of the end. Dwight Eisenhower is put in charge of it. Of course, we know Dwight Eisenhower another way. Because he does so well during D-Day, what does he become later? Yeah, president. Now, I want you to add something in. This isn't in your notes, so you better be paying attention here. I want you, out beside Dwight Eisenhower, I want you to put Omar Bradley as the chief of the American ground forces on D-Day. He is somebody that EOC added into my standards. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really quite know a ton about him. I'd heard his name before, but you need to know that he's basically in charge of the ground forces of D-Day. Now, the funny thing is that there actually was this massive secret of where D-Day was going to be. Many people thought that it was going to be in a northern coast called the Pas de Calastes trick, where we had a massive, this is so funny, massive balloon boats and tanks. Actually, they manufactured in American factories massive balloons so that when the Luftwaffe or the German Air Force flew over to get reconnaissance or intel pictures, that actually they took pictures of massive tanks and boats in the northern side of France. So they thought that they were coming in from one place and we came in from another. Kind of an interesting. It definitely fooled the German spy planes. But D-Day, I'm not kidding you, is an unbelievable overtaking. Let me show you some pictures. In 1944, you might want to know who this guy's name is, Ernie Pyle. This would be a real good quiz question. He is a journalist, the leading journalist on World War II. His quote was, "It seems to me a miracle that we ever took the beach at all," and you'll see why in just a second. So you have Eisenhower right here. Okay, Eisenhower, Operation Overlord. He was picked by the big three. Remember, who are your big three? FDR, Churchill, and Stalin. Of the three, we definitely don't trust Stalin, but Eisenhower is picked at the Tehran Conference as the Supreme Allied Commander. Here is a map of Europe. Just like we looked at a map of the Pacific, here is a map of Europe. Obviously, Patton is going to be coming up from the underside. Oh, I don't want to show you all of that yet. Up from the underside, we're going to take over. We're going to overthrow Mussolini basically again. We're going to be coming up from the soft underbelly. Stalin and his boys are going to be coming in from the east side. D-Day is going to be right here. You'll notice the Normandy invasion, June 6, 1944. There it is. And we're going to go and liberate Paris and take care of that business. Now, D-Day, some pictures if you want to see it. These are going to be the beaches of D-Day. You have a ton of beaches actually looking, and you can kind of see it right here, okay? You'll have the beaches of Omaha, of Omaha, Gold, Juneau, Utah. These are the beaches, and the Allied powers are taking them. You'll notice we are responsible for Utah and Omaha. Omaha by far is the worst one, by the way, because of current and because of the cliffs and stuff. But you'll notice the British and even the Canadians are getting in there. Look at those good Canadians. Now, the D-Day invasion, you want to talk about some serious manpower. Take a look at these stats. Decision Day, 5,000 vessel armada, transporting over 150,000 men in one day, nearly 30,000 vehicles in one day, 6 parachute regiments with 13,000 men in one day, 800 planes, 13,000 bombs in one day. War planners had projected that 5,000 tons of gasoline would be needed daily in the first 20 days. 5,000 tons, guys. Do you need to join a carpooling thing now? Oh, yeah, you do. You better save your gas. By nightfall on June 6, more than 9,000 Allied soldiers were wounded. More than 10,000 probably were dead. More than 100,000 had made it ashore, securing the French villages, and we, within weeks, will begin unloading Utah and Omaha beaches at the rate of 20,000 tons per day. Take a look at these pictures. That's why it was so hard to invade for D-Day. Look at these cliffs. If you want to put obstacles out beside this slide, let's go ahead and do that. Obstacles. Cliffs, they had the higher ground. Current and bad weather were the most horrifying things of all. And now you know how Ernie Pyle says, "It seems to me a miracle we ever took it all." But look at that production. These are called Higgins boats, by the way. You might want to know that. Higgins boats. And basically what ends up happening is we just basically put all the men in the Higgins boats. And then we take and we drop. You see? Oh, sorry. See right there? That front right there? It drops down and you run out. If you were in the first 2 or 3 lines, probably not going to work for you. You're probably shot basically when it dropped. D-Days, literally, statistics are, if you were in one of these boats, you'd look to the guy next to you. You'd look to the guy on the other side of you. Only one of you were probably going to make it in the first 2 rounds. This is the cover of Life magazine after D-Day. You know what? Sometimes they call this generation the greatest generation. After looking at some of these pictures, there is no way in the world that they are not. They took that beach. You want to talk about an invasion? Look at that picture. Just look at it. That is an invasion. It should be like in the dictionary. Invasion, this picture. D-Day, bam, America. Okay? Now, D-Day is going to open up France. Oh, we're going to totally watch Saving Private Ryan, a little clip. These are the beaches of Normandy today. If you want to take a look at some of these, kind of interesting. My parents went, so they took some pictures. You'll notice they're all perfectly symmetrical. I love the fact that they honored those Jewish men with those Star of Davids. Kind of interesting to show that we respect religion, whereas obviously Hitler did not. The last thing we need to get down real quick is the Battle of the Bulge. Last offensive, Hitler's last offensive. We take and we corner him in Belgium, Antwerp, Belgium, 1944. He caught the U.S. off guard. He cornered us, in Belgium. I said the wrong thing. It is the last battle. We win it. The Battle of the Bulge is a victory. And with that, we corner Hitler now in Berlin. Couldn't think of it. VE Day, Victory in Europe. Gotcha.